This video will demonstrate transient analysis on a circuit sheet using RSD and RSD Simulate. I'm going to start by instancing some connector blocks, and I will use these to demonstrate the flexibility and ease of use of RSD. As you can see here, we've got two main connector blocks placed with two terminals, and as you can see, it is very straightforward to edit the properties of all of these blocks. One of the useful features of RSD is the ability to choose your method for routing fibers between artifacts. I will come on to demonstrate two of these methods. The first one is routing fibers directly between pins, and the second method is where you can group select a number of pins from one connector or artifact and select a similar number of pins on a second connector or artifact, and allow RSD to automatically route fibers between these two. And as you can see here, RSD automatically offsets the fibers according to the grid pitch, which you can change. And now we're going to move on to using the simulator to instance a number of components to make up the source side of the circuit. And we'll start with placing a battery and instance it on the left hand side of the design. And we will move on to instancing a resistor, and we'll modify its initial resistance and place it into the design. And we'll now place a transconductance amplifier. This will allow us to convert the voltage from the battery into a current source, which we can then use to measure through the rest of the transient analysis. And the final components we'll place on this side are 3 earth pins, which we will wire up to all of the components that we've just instanced here. And we'll just instance some fibers through the simulator and wire all these components up. And we'll finish this side by wiring the components into the connector block. And as you can see, if we select some of these fibers, RSD has created a signal network routing between each of the different components. Now, the signal network will become important when we come on to moving to a wiring sheet from this circuit sheet, and we will come on to that later on in this demonstration. What we'll do now is demonstrate another useful feature of RSD 9, and that's the use of draft groups. And these are shapes and groups of components which are predefined and normally reusable. And as you can see there, I've instanced 3 resistors, 2 earth pins and fibers routing between them, and dropped them as a whole group. Now that they're in the design, we can manipulate them as normal and route fibers directly to them. So what we'll do here is finish routing the load side of this circuit into the connector block, and that will give us a complete circuit. What we'll do now is we'll need to drop a number of probes into the circuit so we can measure the voltage at these specific points in the circuit. And if we now run the simulation, we can see the output from the battery shown here, and we can overlay the positive and negative ports for the resistor, which are now shown here. And that concludes this part of the demonstration. What we'll do now is finish wiring the remainder of the circuit and move on to the wiring sheet.